One of the main things I do, just because I want to be informed about this industry, even though I may not be as deep in it as I would like to be, as far as, the amount of consulting I do and everything. I try to keep up to date with all the emerging technologies, all of, even the vulnerabilities, right? You have to know about the vulnerabilities in this industry. You need to make sure you keep your systems patched in a production environment like that. I run a couple Linux machines at Oak Hill too, and I have to patch them. Heartbleed was a big one, which I patched all the machines like that day, right? Because I watch Tech Talk Today. I don't necessarily need to scour the internet looking for this news all the time. I watch Tech Talk Today, which is a Jupiter broadcasting program, a 15-minute program every morning, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I skip a day or whatever. And you've got all your news for that day. If there's vulnerabilities or something that you need to know about. And then you've got TechSnap, which covers all the system administration, networking, all that stuff in a weekly podcast. And then you've got 2 different Linux podcasts for any of the Linux stuff you're interested in. Jupiter Broadcasting is the thing that keeps me up to date with all this stuff. If I didn't have Jupiter Broadcasting, I would not know as much as I know, and I would not be as up to date as I am. And if I did not run Linux as my main operating system, I would not know as much about Linux as I know, which is the way I see the entire industry going. We've already seen it in the major enterprises, right? The only thing they keep Windows around for is Active Directory and Exchange, and those numbers are dwindling all the time.
Active Directory and Exchange, not to mention that their end users, okay, everybody that works for that company that uses a computer also needs to sit down at a Windows machine to feel even slightly comfortable with what they're going to be doing on their computer at work. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, don't forget that factor.
Not necessarily. Take a look at a traditional enterprise environment. One of my first jobs was at a call center for XM Sirius Radio. I think I probably told you about this before. Yes, all their desktops were Windows, but their entire back-end infrastructure was completely Linux-based. And this is how we used those Windows computers. We opened up PuTTY, an SSH program, which SSH is obviously built into Linux by default, just by double-clicking an icon. We are told which icon to double-click to log into the system, and it's all over SSH, right? You got keyboard keys you hit, which is how most systems are. I mean, you've seen a lot of systems even over, well, I think Target's actually updated recently, but they used to be completely DOS-based, and you still see a lot of DOS systems. Anyway, so PuTTY for that, right? And the only other interface we have to interact with is a web-based GUI. Those are 2 things that Linux does very well, and you do not need a Windows box for. To get on the internet, use a web browser, and to use an SSH window. That's something Linux can do out of the box, no problem, right? So absolutely, they didn't need Windows on anything. That's completely Linux. Even their PBX system was completely Linux-based. They were operating on VoIP at that point, using Asterisk and free PBX. Thing was, they probably bought the computers that came with a copy of Windows, so they used it, right? I see a lot of cases like that, not necessarily because the users need it. You don't necessarily need Microsoft Word. Between OpenOffice, LibreOffice, the fork of OpenOffice, and Microsoft Word, the only reason we use Microsoft Word is because other people use Microsoft Word, and there can tend to be some compatibility problems between LibreOffice and Microsoft Office. So if the entire company as a whole, the enterprise as a whole, all switches to LibreOffice in the open document format, we have no need for Microsoft Office. And we've got tools that are just as good. Why do we need Windows? Most of the enterprises are web-based. They're using an Office suite, and that's pretty much it, which you could do under Linux. You tell the user where to click. That's all they need to do. It doesn't need to be Windows.
Yeah, actually, as soon as I said it, I realized, you know what? I mean, even, yeah, like you said, it comes down to Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Like, literally, you're absolutely right. And Linux does have proper alternatives, so you're right.
Video is kind of where Linux isn't quite as strong as Windows, just because those proprietary applications aren't all on Linux. Yeah, we have Lightworks, which is a proprietary video editing program, which is amazing, but we don't have Adobe. Obviously we don't have Final Cut. But you're talking audio, word processing, web browsing, watching videos, even playing some games, some popular titles now. Linux does just fine. In a lot of cases, it does better. If it's not a video-centric enterprise, there's no reason why it can't be Linux-based at this point.
Fair enough. You make a good point, my friend. Touche.
But the majority, I guess the main reason most enterprises haven't converted completely to Linux is because a lot of their staff are Windows certified technicians, MCSE, Microsoft certified system engineer, and they paid to send them to these certification courses and all that crap, and they've got so much money invested in Windows. Well, might as well just keep investing in it, and maybe nobody ever really mentions that, hey, we could do this for free, reduce our budget by $500,000, and it'll work just as good, if not better. There's a market for that stuff out there. Just got to find it.
We could be, the people that implement that change. If Linux is selling itself, we can just be the guys that come along and, we could be the final step for these businesses.